In this presentation, we're going to talk about how to focus your research topic. So, how do I focus my research topic? Many times students come to me when we're talking about research and they have difficulty finding more data on their research when you're doing your preliminary research. So, for example, you started off with a topic and then you discovered as you're doing some research or you're looking for sources that it seems like it's too hard or it seems like it's not going anywhere. Either you have too many sources or you don't have enough, you can't find anything about that. The issue is not that your topic is bad or that there's no sources. A lot of times it's, you're not focusing it. All right. So that's the purpose of this presentation, is to teach us how to a little bit more to focus on our topic. Okay, so the first thing that we have to take care of is to think about our topic. So how should I think about my topic? The word topic comes from the Greek word topos, which means place. All right, so that means you should think of your topic as a place rather than, an end, right? Like, so you're thinking about the topic is stuff that you're going to talk about because you know about it, versus a journey. All right, so you want to think about it as a place where you begin your journey, beginning your trip or road trip. Okay, so you start in this place and head off in a specific direction. So your topic is a place. All right, a beginning. So thinking about your topic as a place where you start a journey will help you narrow down your topic from a really broad one to a more focused one. Okay, so think about it as a road trip then. All right, this is the beginning point of your road trip. That's your topic. Now, you can't be too general because then you won't be able to punch it into the GPS. So you need to narrow it down to exactly where you're at, okay, and to help you be able to, create that journey, to have a proper journey, okay? So a broad topic can intimidate you and give you too many sources. That's what's happening to a lot of people, right? That have come to me. The topic is, they want to change the topic, but the problem is not the topic itself, but the problem is how you are thinking about it. Okay, so what is my topic too broad? How do I know if it's too broad? Well, the way that you can know it's too broad is if you can say it in 4 or 5 words. So if you can say your topic in 4 or 5 words, it's probably too broad to study. It's too general. So examples would be like free will in Tolstoy. That's too broad, right? It's like, which Tolstoy novel are you talking about, right? The history of commercial aviation is another one. There's 5 words there. Like you're going to talk about all of traveling, all of air travel, the entire history of it. It's been around for some time. Okay, why is it then too broad? If I can say my topic in 4 to 5 words is too broad, but why is it so? Well, part of it is, okay, so if we take a look at the 2 that we have, part of it, the way that you could tell if it's too broad is turning it into a sentence to see if that sentence goes anywhere. All right, so like free will in Tolstoy becomes there is free will in Tolstoy. Well, that's kind of like a duh. Thank you for letting me know there is that. It just becomes, you're telling me where you're at rather than a journey of discovery. Okay. The history of commercial aviation. Well, it just turns into, commercial aviation has a history. Well, that's kind of like, well, no duh, it has a history. Thank you for letting me know. And that's almost like the end of it. You can't actually do much with it, right? So, these 2 things, they don't go anywhere. And you want to be able to have a topic that goes somewhere, that is actually a road trip rather than just a destination. Okay, so how can I then narrow it down? Well, narrow a topic down by adding words or phrases that express 2 things. You can narrow it down by expressing actions and relationships. So you got to think about how your topic is related to things and talk about how it's related to things. Or if your topic does something, you need to talk about how it does something, or preferably both. Okay. Just like on a road trip, you're going to be moving and you got to talk about where you moved and then how it's connected to you and how where you moved is, what you think about where you moved. All right, where you're going. So on a road trip, it's going to be like, I'm going to Las Vegas. So then the first place I'm going to stop at is Costco to get information. So then how is Costco related to me? Because it's supplies. All right, so you need, as you're talking about that, as you're taking pictures along that road trip, that's really what a research paper is you're going on a road trip and you're just taking pictures, you're taking snapshots along the way of your trip to prove that you went on this trip. Okay. So here are the broad topics and how we can convert them to narrow. So free will in Tolstoy becomes the conflict of free will and inevitability in Tolstoy's description of three battles in War and Peace. Okay? The history of commercial aviation becomes the contribution of the military in developing the DC-3 in the early years of commercial aviation. Now, that might seem more complicated. Of course it is. But I've added in two more action kind of words and relationship words. So conflict and description. Okay? Contribution and developing. These are action words and description words that sort of give it much more substance to work with. You can talk about conflict. You can talk about description. You can talk about a contribution or developing. Okay? How that action of contributing helped develop it. There's something that you can grab onto rather than just telling me the whole history of commercial aviation. Okay? So again, let's test it to see if it could turn into a sentence. And what can we do with that sentence? Let's take a look. So, conflict of free will and inevitability in Tolstoy's description of three battles in War and Peace becomes, in War and Peace, Tolstoy describes three battles in which free will and inevitability will conflict. So now you got something to work with. All right, something you're going to talk about describing, and then you're going to talk about conflict. Okay? Contribution of military in developing the DC-3 in the early years of commercial aviation. Again, it turns into, in the early years of commercial aviation, the military contributed to the way the DC-3 developed. Okay, now you've got something to work with, and all we've taken are those words that are action and relationships, and we've turned it into an active sentence. And this can become your thesis that you're working with, all right? To see if the military contributed to the development of the DC-3. So what were their contributions and how was it developed? Now you've got stuff that you could write about and look for. Okay? These are definitely paths that you can go down. Now they might seem a little thin. They might seem like there's not that much, but that's, but you needed to start somewhere, and this is a good start, a nice, map of your trip, and you're going to fill in the blanks as we go along. Okay? So can your topic be too narrow? Yes, it can. Okay? Don't be so specific you can't find any sources for it. Sometimes it's too detailed, so you need to zoom out a bit. Okay? So it's too broad. So here's an example of too broad, the history of commercial aviation. Here's too narrow, the design to lengthen the wingtips on DC-3 prototype for military use as a cargo carrier. That's really, really specific. Now, that's not an impossible topic if you're working for McDonnell Douglas. All right? If you're working for the company that builds the airplane, you might be able to do this because you have resources to help you to do it. But for right now, where we're at, either in undergraduate college or in high school, it's just there may not be that detailed resources. So we back it up a bit from something that's too narrow to something a little more balanced, like the original one. The contribution of the military in developing the DC-3 in the early years of commercial aviation. Backed up a little bit from just wingtips to cargo carriers to just, DC-3 and military involvement. And that's certainly better than just history of commercial aviation. Okay? So make sure that when you're rewriting your topic that you consider putting in action words and also words that show relationship, preferably a combo of both. Okay? And if you want to learn more, check out the book, The Craft of Research by Wayne Booth, 2016. It's about $18 on Amazon, I think, or at Barnes & Noble. But this book is fairly useful in helping you develop research.